Hello, hello, hello. Hi, maybe talking to myself, or I probably at least Deirdre. But I went to go live because I just wanted to do a walkthrough of this deck before I shuffled it, and realized that my nails were naked, and I literally felt like, oh my gosh, I can't go onto a live video with naked. It was like I felt like I was going to be going on live without any clothes on. Because I don't think I've ever had totally naked nails on any reading that I've ever done or live that I've ever done. So I was like, oh no, I got to whip at least one coat on there so people aren't horrified by my naked nails. So I will say thank you for, or I will say you're welcome. Um, I will say you're welcome for me covering up the nakedness of my nails just for you. Hello, Liberius Inyo Taruk. Oh, I'm slaughtered that, I'm sure. Hello, hello. And hello, Yolanda. I am also trying, those of you who watched my plan with me, which are the only things I've done in the last couple of weeks. Sorry, my nose is itchy. I'm recovering from COVID and I have the weird COVID taste. I've done lots and lots of study on this, but there are two kinds. One kind is where you lose all of your taste. And then there's another kind in which you have mismatched taste, which is my problem. Lots of things taste like garbage or like it's rancid. And so I have had many disappointments today trying different things to drink that didn't taste gross. This is my sixth attempt, and I think it's actually going to be good. This is chai tea. Orange is still a big trouble. Lemon was even worse. Lemon was the most disgusting thing. This is a Thai, or not Thai, chai tea. What is that called? I just looked the word up. It's like it's not condensed, but it is concentrated. And so you mix it like half and half because somebody recommended this, but it's been too hot for me to try it. That's pretty good. It's definitely, I know, muted. Like I think I should put some more of the chai tea concentrate. It's definitely very muted, but it doesn't taste gross. It doesn't taste gross. I can't say it's like absolutely delicious. I wonder if I can just put some more in. Because I have to do that with the sassafras tea concentrate. I have to put a little more than it calls for so I can actually taste it. Can I put a little more in it, do you think? Sorry, nobody got on here to see me, or hear me drink. I apologize. I got the real deal, which is sassafras tea that tastes really good. It's not bad. It's not bad. I tried it cold with some almond milk instead of regular milk, and that had a punch of something that was almost not good tasting. But I think it was because of the almond milk that I had. I'm sorry. Anybody who's on here, nobody wants to talk about how my food tastes, but that's all that I've been focused on because it's the only thing interesting. The vanilla almond milk was almost too much with the vanilla in the chai, and something just didn't taste quite right. I don't taste that with regular milk, so I think I would need to get almond milk without the vanilla, maybe. I don't know, but it doesn't taste bad, so that's something. It's not bad. I think it needs more of the chai latte concentrate, and it might actually taste pleasant. Okay. Sorry, folks. We were also waiting for this one sad little coat of nail polish to dry before I mess with it too much because I didn't want you seeing my naked nails. Okay, folks, how are you guys tonight? Hello, Sarah, and you are very welcome. Hello, Doug. Hello, Shelby. I think you are fantastic, for sure. And yes, Mr. I say Mr., but I shouldn't do that. It's instinctual. laborious. Taste is the same as it's been. My biggest struggle is things to drink because water tastes like soap. So it's kind of been rough. I want to go put a splash more in. Would you guys be mad if I go do that? Because I feel like it could be good. Hello, Element. Hello, Caden. Sarah, thank you. I love the color orange. It's very fall, and I'm an autumnal baby, so I love the color orange. Not that everybody born in autumn likes orange, but I certainly do. So thank you so much. Mr. Caden, Mr. Caden. I'm going to splash it in. I'm going to go grab it, and I'll show you what it is. Still disgusting. This is what I'm trying to, and I've tried literally, I have tried 6 things to drink today, and all of them have been disgusting. This is Oregon chai. It is black tea concentrate, honey, and spices. Just add milk, and you do like half and half. So this is half milk and half of the chai concentrate. I can taste it, and it doesn't taste gross, but it's not very strong. So I'm just going to put a little splash more in there. Like, it smells good, where some things smell disgusting. Like, okay, now my hands are going to be sticky. But yes, all pops. It doesn't matter if it's diet or regular. What I found is anything with artificial flavorings in it tastes really gross. Gets that rancid gross. I'm much better off to get something with natural flavorings, but even that's not 100%. Like, obviously oranges are 100% natural, lemons are 100% natural, strawberries are 100% natural, and those all taste disgusting. I mean, that's good. Like, I could drink that and enjoy that. Hello, Jada. Sorry, I literally have a log. I won't go through it because I'll save that for Plan With Me, because everybody in Plan With Me on Sundays is invested in my journey. But I have a log at the end of everything that doesn't taste like anything, everything that's rancid tasting, and things that taste good, although this beef soup should be over here. The only things that taste good are sassafras, balsamic glaze, tomatoes, pineapples, teriyaki. Avocados taste good. I just found that out yesterday. Sour cream, I don't like sour cream, but it does taste good. And maple syrup, but only real maple syrup, not any of the regular old syrup, the light syrups, none of the normal syrups. They all taste disgusting, but real maple syrup does taste good. Those are the only things so far that I found that taste good. I am getting over COVID, whispers healing, and have lost my taste, or I have wonky taste. So that's why I talk way too much about it. I feel bad for all of my friends and family. The only thing I talk about is what I've discovered has tasted gross, or what I've discovered has tasted good. Heather had suggested this chai, and I couldn't find it anywhere, and I just found it today. Yes, post-COVID, nasty taste. Okay, enough about me. My nails should be dry. I will put a timestamp for people wanting to see a walkthrough of this. I'll try to remember to put a timestamp where to go right to this point so that they don't have to listen to all that. Yeah, this isn't bad. I wouldn't say it's delicious. I mean, it's good. And I'm taking good over disgusting, because my biggest problem is drinking. The only thing that tastes good is sassafras tea with my raw sugar that I put in it. I don't want to drink that much sugar and drink this all day long, like in cold sweet tea. I can't drink that all. I'm used to drinking tons of Coke Zero. Water tastes like soap. I have tried putting all kinds of things into water. I've infused it with everything you can think of. And I'm just down to chugging water, even though it tastes like soap, and then sassafras tea. So I'll take this chai as an alternative. Okay. Hello, Milo. I'm going to get on point now. I promise. I promise. I don't know. We're going to find out together. The only reason I got this is because my friend Patrick picked this deck up a couple days ago, and he really enjoyed it, and he showed me a couple of the cards, and I said, you know what, I've seen that at Barnes and Nobles before, so I stopped by my Barnes and Nobles, and they had it, and I grabbed it, and he did pulled a read a card for me, one with spirit cards and one from this deck, and it was a really fantastic reading. So I can't do the lemon. Lemon tastes like garbage. Lemon, orange, strawberries. Nope. I have thought about, Claire. I'm so sorry for everybody. I promise I will timestamp this for people watching back. I wondered about those soda streams. Have you seen those soda streams that like make carbonated water so that you can put your own like flavors into it? I thought about something like that, but most of the flavors I can't do. Agua fresca might work. Like a pineapple might. Pineapple tastes good. I can drink pineapple juice. That's the only, I will say the spot of my day is drinking a can of pineapple juice because it tastes amazing. It is probably the most amazing taste that I have left. But have I tried miracle fruit? It changes your taste buds. I have no clue, Tally. I will write it down. Let me get a piece of paper. I don't know what that is, but I will write it down, and I'm willing. I'm about tired, to be honest, of buying things and throwing it out. But I'm also about tired of not having, lots of things to drink. Oh, I just wrote your name instead of the thing. I'm so sorry. Let's see. What is it called? It's called, I just lost it. Miracle fruit. I don't know what that is, but I'm going to look it up. Thank you for the suggestion. I appreciate it. I have tried many, 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 many things. So I'm definitely a little bit frustrated with buying things and throwing them out. No sugar, no nothing, Claire. Yes, I know. It's the lemon's the problem. The lemon tastes like garbage. It's probably one of the worst things that I tasted. Orange juice was the worst, and then lemon made me gag. It was absolutely terrible. Absolutely terrible. Oof, makes me feel shivery even just thinking about it. Okay. I'm going to keep any suggestions coming. I appreciate it. But I'm gonna what should I time? I wish this had a thing where you could swoop. That must be something that you set up. I'm going to write down around 13 and a half minutes of me babbling about my taste buds. 13:30, just so I can roughly find it. Okay, so anyways, I'm going to repeat what I just said just so it's kind of at the timestamp. My friend Patrick picked this up. He was really interested in it, and he showed me some of the cards, and I thought that was interesting. So that is why I picked this up. And then he pulled a card for me with another deck as well. And it was a really interesting reading. So I decided I'm going to go ahead and do a walkthrough before I shuffle it up. So this is called the Mystical Healing Reading Cards by Ina Segal Ina Segal, maybe. It is by Rockpool Publishing. It's illustrated by Jake Baddeley. Healing everything from fear and anxiety to ancestral patterns and karma, this deck will be one of the most profound and life-changing you have ever encountered. Propel yourself into your inner life of feelings, soul wisdom, and spiritual evolution with this mystical card deck. Each card's evocative image offers you profound knowledge of self and spirit combined with practical guidance and tools for transformation. You will find yourself more aware, more resilient, and more able to tackle challenges and embrace opportunities. Now, one of the things that I chose to get this for was because when Patrick was showing me some of the cards, there seemed to be a lot of shadow in it, in a supportive way, in a sort of deal with your stuff kind of way, but more so than we generally will often see in oracle decks. So that was intriguing as well. And yes, half full for surviving COVID for sure, and not losing it all. Although there have been times I've wished that I just lost it all, to be honest, because it's really hard to taste things that taste like garbage. Like it literally tastes like rotten things. So that's a little, I almost wished it didn't taste like anything, but that's because I don't have that problem. So, but yes, I agree. I am half glass full, but still frustrated. That's where I stand. Okay, let's take a look here. So I love a rock pool deck because I like their guidebooks. I think they're really colorful. They usually have full-size images. And even though the cardstock on rock pools feel very thin, I have a couple rock pool this size oracle decks that I have shuffled the heck out of for years, and they look brand new. They haven't chipped or anything. So my experience with rock pool publishing cardstock is that yes, it's slippery, yes, it's thin, but it stands up quite well. And so no complaints there. It has like a plastic insert so the cards can't slip behind there. Again, I just like their sizes of their deck boxes, and I love their guidebooks in general. And so yeah, let's put this up here so people coming in can see what we're looking at. We'll move the chai latte. When I saw some of the images, I thought it was going to be a little more intellectual based, which in my experience, what is the deck? The people who did the Pagan Otherworlds put out a oracle deck that I enjoy the concept of greatly. It's much more sort of in the headspace, feels very Libra-esque in theory, but I find for readings, those types of really like in the headspace don't really hit Supra. Thank you, Deirdre. The Super Oracle. I love the Oracle and I think it's gorgeous and there's a lot that I like about it, but it doesn't hit. I don't pull it out much because it just doesn't hit that intuitive space. And I kind of was worried this would be the same, but it doesn't seem to be. It seems a little bit more shamanic-y based feeling in sort of the keywords. It feels a little bit more like doing soul retrieval work than it does in head work. But that's my initial reactions to it. So let's take a look at the guidebook and then we'll come back here. So again, Rock Pool Publishing does a great job. They're always very colorful, very well done. How to use the cards, pretty normal. They have your past, present, future, and an overall message. I liked the idea of bringing in using a pendulum, so that was a little different. Using it for making choices. I did like this. I thought this looked like an interesting reading. It's focus, denial, moving forward, next step, and then a challenge and a blessing. So this one, the other ones kind of felt like, okay, it doesn't really have anything to do with the specifics to the deck. This one looks promising, so I will definitely try that one. So you can see this is kind of what's on the back. It's almost like you're looking at Leonardo da Vinci's sketchbook. It's like parchment paper that has sketches on it. And you can see that is what is on the back of the cards, which I think is really beautiful. I really like that back. So that's really pretty, but this is kind of a larger vision of it. But I think it's really gorgeous for the backs. So then it goes right into the card. So this is the first card, but we'll just see what it gives us. You have a larger than the card size, not by a ton, but it's a little bit bigger than the actual card, which is already a large card. there. And so you have the image as you would see it. They are numbered. So there's the number 1 and the, oh, I must have messed this up. Oh no, that's the first one. No, okay. Access clear thinking. And so it has just exactly the card as you would see it, but a little bit larger. It has access clear thinking. And then it gives us sort of what should you be doing? Develop objective thinking about your situation and find the best solution. It does seem to me, and I've only looked at this a little bit, but it does seem to me like it is very action oriented. Like, what are you going to do about this? You know, versus just sitting and thinking about it. Like, what are you actually going to do about it? And I quite like that, obviously, as well. Let's go ahead and read this just so you have one example of what text you get. To think deeply about something, you have to develop your powers of concentration and allow yourself the time to connect all the pieces of your inner puzzle together. Profound thinking requires you to ask important questions such as, how much time and energy do I have available during the day? And am I using my time in the most constructive ways possible? What is the most important thing to focus on today? You are being presented with some important decisions. This card asks you not to jump to conclusions based on your emotions. Instead, take the time to look at all the options and points of view available. Through this type of thinking, you will activate your highest intuitive faculties and will discover a new way to do things, a way you have not yet thought of. You are also being called to divide your thinking between everyday affairs as well as higher spiritual truths, which require you to expand your thinking into multidimensional thinking. And then it has on all of them, yep, it has an action for you to take. Make a list of what is important for you to deeply think about and do. Take some time to meditate on how you can organize your day, week, month in a more optimal way. If you need to make an important decision, try to look at it from several points of view. The more you can look at a situation from a higher point of view as opposed to an emotional reaction, the more capacity you will have to discover the most effective, efficient outcomes. So it gives you an action. It's very action here. And then you've got something more to think about here. And that's what you get for each of the cards. Somebody asked how new it was. Let me see. Copyright 2020. So this looks like it's been out since 2020. I have seen it before, but I've never looked at it closely. And it's definitely been at my Barnes and Nobles. I got this at Barnes and Nobles. And I think that Patrick got it at Books A Million. Usually if he randomly picks up a deck, it's Books A Million. It was definitely cheaper at Books A Million than it was at Barnes and Nobles, although I have the 20% off, or no, the 10%, whatever the membership is. I haven't looked to see how much it is on Amazon. So since 2020. I know, Deirdre, this would be a beautiful fabric. Okay, so that's what we get. And of course, it goes through that with all of the decks or all of the cards. There's definitely, and what this made me think of, let me just make sure there's nothing else back here. That's about the illustrator. That's about the author. And acknowledgement. One of the things, was it this one? No, it was a different deck. I've got another deck I want to do a walkthrough of that's a Goddesses, Gods, and Guardians. And the illustrator was originally a medical illustrator. That's her main job, is as a medical illustrator. But then she made these illustrations, and she also makes fantasy illustrations. And I thought that was an interesting background for an Oracle deck artist. It's not this one though. I thought it was for a minute because I got that not that long ago either. Okay, so let's take a look at the cards. Again, here's the back, which we saw up close. It's kind of shadowed on the outside. I would definitely edge these probably in a sepia toned in some way is what I'm guessing that I'll do with that. I can't think, this to me might be too red, too dark. But that's not, this kind of has a reddish sepia tone. I don't know why I know I have to do it. So I guess I'm just looking, or I could just use my usual that I always do, which is 026, which is a matte gold. I don't know. We'll leave those out and decide. We'll look and see what they look like at the end when we look at them. Hello, Heather. Heather, look, I'm sorry. Everybody can just look away for 2 seconds while I show Heather because this was her recommendation. I found this today at a kind of more organic, healthy store. And I just tasted it. It was good. Was a little muted. I had to add a little bit more in, but it's pleasant. It's pleasant. I enjoyed it. Thank you. Because of Miss Heather's suggestion, I not only got this, but I also got my sassafras concentrate. All right, let me zoom in here. There we go. You know, smell is not my thing right now, Milo. They don't smell like anything to me, but a lot of things don't. So I don't think you should take my word for that. Okay, let's do this so people coming in know what we're looking at. There we go. Is that too annoying? That's going to annoy me. Sorry, folks. We're going to go like this. Nope, that's going to annoy me. Sorry, I was going to try, but that's going to get in my hands way. Okay. Yeah, I can't smell anything, so I don't know Milo. It smells like nothing to me. All right, so we just read this for Access Clear Thinking. Again, I'm going to pull the deck, keep the book out so we can look at it. It definitely has, oh, I know what I was trying to say. I'm so sorry. I definitely have a little bit of a brain that isn't working fully functioning yet. The burnt orange did not work for me yet. So far, no, it did not work. I don't know if it doesn't work once, if I can try it again, but it did not work. When I first saw this deck, I thought this would go really well with Cat Black's Golden Tarot. It just kind of, I don't know. I feel like it kind of has that look of this deck. We'll see when we can do like a couple sample readings. But when I saw it, I thought, oh, this would go. Yeah, I did, Heather. My mom, it did not work for. My nephew-in-law, it did work for. So it's been hidden. My other brother-in-law, it did not work for. He has had no taste for 2 years. So mostly no on that. It didn't work for me. Okay, sorry. I know it's so hard for me. I'm going to be so annoyed. I'm going to have to put a note and then I'll put a jump to this, but it's so interesting. Okay, I'll save it for the Plan With Me Sunday. It definitely has a sort of medieval, Christianized, or definitely angels and things like that in there. But the feeling of the cards, the titles, and sort of what they're attempting to do feels a lot more. It feels a lot more shamanic. Like I said, it kind of feels like soul retrieval work to me. Just in how I would connect it to my own practice. That's what it feels like. But we'll see what you guys think. So there we have that. We can see there's like a labyrinth in the background here. We have sort of this tangle here and almost like needing to untangle so that you can get clear thinking, kind of stop, untangle the ball, get that feeling and that thinking processing that you need more clearly there. I do like the kind of Hermes nod with the winged here as well, but I think it's beautiful. The artwork is really gorgeous. Let's see if it says what kind of artist he is. I think I understood that these were actual paintings. His work is an evocative mix of mystical and profound and the absurd. It is classical yet surreal, contemporary yet historical. So it's a mix of those things, but I believe it's actual paintings from what I understood. So that's the first one. We read all about that. Next, we have Assimilate Life Experience. And again, even the titles so far are action oriented, right? This is like access clear thinking. Like whatever's going on, you need to access clear thinking. Assimilate life experiences. Don't just think about this. You actually need to do something about it. And as I said, each of the cards has an action Plus, it has this underneath it that is also action oriented. So this definitely feels like a deck that is pushing you to actually do something with whatever the concept is. In this case, to become conscious of what you allow to impact you. So what is your life experience? What are you allowing to impact you? Because you have control over that. You don't have control over the experience, but you do have a a say in what you do with it and how much you allow it to impact you once you're aware of it. So I love that. Mother Stone, hello, says I pair mystical healing cards with primordial. Oh, I have that one. And Shaman's Oracle. See, this is what we're thinking. This was Patrick and I's thoughts on initial thoughts, was that it has a very shamanic feel with it. Visually, I could see it with shamanic oracle as well, but I would never have guessed the primordial tarot. Interesting. But that sort of puts a little bit of a exclamation point on what we were thinking, that has a much more, even though the artwork isn't that way, the deck feels that way. So here we have somebody just walking along, and obviously something from his past is behind him, kind of coming at him. So there's an idea of what are you going to allow to continue to impact you? You need to take control of that. Here we have awaken your vulnerability. So, but it's still action oriented, right? So you choose to awaken and bring forward that vulnerability. It's off of your choices here. Allow others to meet your unprotected heart is sort of the sub meaning of this. You have that. It's very interesting, right? So you have parts of people pulling this together, very vulnerable, very exposed. And this is asking you to be willing to be vulnerable. One of the paragraphs, I'm just going to read this here because it jumped out at me. It says, in this exploration, you have the possibility of discovering your most intimate, delicate, creative, and surprising aspects. This may require you to develop more understanding and compassion for yourself and your life's journey, whilst at the same time moving past the pain of rejection or abuse you may have experienced and which has caused you to shut down. So acknowledging what might cause you to not want to be vulnerable about each other to other people, but working towards being able to awaken that and allow yourself to be vulnerable, which is very difficult processes, and some that I work a lot with grief work and things of that nature with other people. And so I think this would be a very powerful card to come up in the context of healing. Here we have become more objective. Again, definitely has kind of Christian motifs of the cross. You have an angel, but we actually have an angel wing and more of a devil type demon wing on the other side, I would say. And then we have the moon, though, that also reminds you a little bit more. Yes, Heather, thank you. Heather, it does in the imagery, but I don't feel the same vibe of it in terms of using. Like, I don't use super too much because it really inhabits too much of a headspace for me, where this one seems to hit more on the intuitive level. It's very interesting, but interesting that you brought that up, because I had said that earlier before you were on, that I thought it was going to hit like Supra, but then it didn't. So it's quite interesting. Coffee Girl, not sure about COVID. Yeah, I can't do lemon, but this has cloves in it and it doesn't taste good, or it doesn't taste bad. I am going to start the using essential oils with the 4 main scents to try to start training it. But right now, lemon is a huge no-go. I think it's lemon, eucalyptus, cloves, and rose essential oil were the 4 that were recommended in one article that I read. Anyway, sorry. We're going to be scattering fixing COVID tastes throughout this because that's what interests me. Okay. So there's, I feel much better. My dear sister, I feel much, much better. I hope you're feeling better. Allow others to meet your unprotected heart. Oh, wait, I didn't switch the page. Sorry. Become more objective says develop a compassionate attitude towards yourself and others. And the action, it says, reflect on old patterns that keep coming up in your life. Where do you keep creating similar types of painful, hurtful experiences? You need to sort of, in the midst of healing, you've got to find a way to become more objective so that you can, in this case, in this card, see how can you be able to see what's actually going on here, what is kind of developed into a pattern that keeps playing out, and so that you can start to dismantle some of those painful patterns that you've developed. So again, I really like the action oriented, like, what are you going to do about it? This isn't just about, okay, this is what's going on, but it's really that call to do something about it. Here we have break addiction. Again, there's a lot of shadowy cards here, which I think we, again, don't get much of in Oracle decks. Let go of your addictions. All habits are an attempt to suppress uneasy, undesired feelings by using outside means to alter one's mood. This isn't just drugs. This isn't just food, but food is one of the things that we use. This can be using media to suppress things. This can be watching TV, an escape way. All things can be used in an addictive way, right? To alter your mood and pull you away from what's actually the problem. We all slip into patterns where we'll use outside things to kind of dull whatever's going on or to escape from whatever's going on. And it's not always a bad thing. Sometimes you have to get away from things that you're dealing with for a moment. But if it becomes like a complete always running away from that, obviously that can become problematic. One of the actions, and I do like that they talk about there's different things: gambling, food, alcohol, success, coffee, drugs, worry, drama, criticism, seeing something wrong with your body, spending more money, stressing or focusing on lack, et cetera, et cetera. So it does give you lots of options other than just to do with drug addiction. And so as an action, it's asking you to pick one thing that you might be addicted to and set a small, easily achievable goal. Example they gave is, instead of having 3 cups of coffee in the morning, cut it down to 2 at first, and so on. So that's that one. Here we have contemplate death and beyond. Again, has a very medieval vibe to the look of this artwork. The request is to live fully. In order to live fully, you need to understand death, but we do have to be willing to contemplate those things. Every moment of every day, there are aspects of you that are dying and transforming. This card offers an opportunity to consciously reflect on the process of death. And goes on. Again, I do really like the guidebook. You're about to go through a major cleansing process where many of your materialistic ambitions will start to fall away, while your spiritual aspirations will become aroused. Through this process, your fears of death have the possibility to transform into awe of the higher worlds. If you want to read a book that goes on this theme, I highly suggest. Oh my goodness, I really have COVID brain. I recommend this deck or this book all of the time with my one book. It's called it's by, all right, I'm not gonna, one second, because it's gonna drive me bonkers. I spent 10 minutes trying to think of the suit of clubs. I had to look it up, which I've never had to do. I'm sorry, I think it's in here. I think in my reference book, I stuck my, it's going to drive me bonkers because I really recommend this book a lot. Actually, it's up where the spreads are, I think. Here we go. Did I put it in here? Oh, I did not. This is going to drive me bonkers. Pause a minute. I'm sorry, folks, but this is going to drive me bonkers. I love this book and I recommend it all the time. Is it Philip Simmons? ALS Death Book? I don't know how to look it up. Learning to fall. Ah, Learning to Fall, The Blessings of an Imperfect Life by Philip Simmons. He was somebody who was diagnosed with ALS, and he was a writer, but he wrote about his experience of learning to die. He was dying. He knew he was dying. He knew he had so long to live. And it was his way of processing that. I had read it before my son passed away, and I've read it after my son passed away. And it's just a really beautiful look at somebody processing and contemplating death and what that means. And I think it's something obviously we shy a lot away from, especially in a Western context. So I definitely recommend that. I guess I should put a link to it in here. Let me click on it, and I'll put a link. Paste. There we go. Okay. So again, love that. Very powerful. Create boundaries. Like, isn't this a card that we need to have coming up? Knowing when to say yes and when to say no. That's obviously the action is working with that. There's a lot of us who have a struggle with saying yes too much. I have had both experiences. My natural self doesn't like confrontation at all. And so my natural inclination is to say what was always to say yes to too much and not be able to just say, no, I really can't take that on right now. When my 3 years before my son passed away, we knew that he was, going to be passing away. Like, we were told, it was just waiting now. And I went into a really bad depression for about a year. And when I came out of that, I had lost all the, what I call bullshit factor, excuse the language. I just didn't care. And so I now, and then after he died, same sort of thing. Like, no, I am I know no ability to deal with this at all. So now my instant reaction is more likely to say no first. And before I would ever say yes. And so that kind of swapped. But my recommendation when I was a person who was always saying yes too much, my recommendation, what I kind of taught myself, was to say, I'll get back with you on that. Like, I need to look and see where I'm at away from the situation, check my calendar, whatever. But it's always, instead of making a declaration then and there, I'll get back with you at that, so that I could go figure out what I really wanted to do and then approach it that way. So that's there's my piece of advice. I've been on both extremes, but I recommend just giving yourself time to figure out, if you're a person that struggles with that, to give yourself the space so that you can actually figure out what it is that you want to do and then make a definite thing. Or just say no, like me, and then you can always change your mind when you decide, I actually really would like to do that. My other thing with boundaries was, one of the things that I learned, again, a lot of my learnings have been through grief, because I had a chronically ill child his whole life and then he died. So that's a lot of my lessons are from that. But after he passed away, I said no to everything, even family functions. And then I started to say, okay, I'm going to say yes, but for 30 minutes. So that way I always had an out. So I say, yes, I'm going to go to my sister's to hang out at her, apartment downtown, and we're going to have a nice time. But I'm only promising to stay for 30 minutes. And that took some of that stress off of me, because I had set a boundary that said after 30 minutes I could leave and nobody could get mad at me because I had set that boundary. And so most of the time I would end up staying past the 30 minutes, but it made me feel like, okay, I can say yes because I've set some parameters there. Right. So I just think this is something that a lot of people struggle with, right? And is because we're taught, I think, especially as women in my generation, and certainly from fundamental religious aspect, we are taught to be I can't speak. No speaking English today. We're taught to always be open and always be available, regardless of our wishes, right? And so I think that is something that still bleeds over into a lot of people having that issue. So I like this as a card. I love boundary cards. Sorry. That was a lot of babble for that, but it's all right. We're just chit-chatting. Brienne, you're going to check it out. Good. Good, good, good. It's a beautiful book. Okay. Develop stronger concentration. Become more detailed and effective in all you do. It starts here with acute concentration enables you to think in a cohesive, harmonious way. By learning to deepen your concentration, you will be able to delve more into more profound understanding of life, make better decisions, and effectively work with life-changing healing and spiritual processes. Don't you feel like this is something that I think we're going to need more and more of? Just that society has become so much more faster paced, so much more into the bite-sized, consuming bite size. Like I've seen there's an app where you can read books. It's not reading books, but you can read books. And all it does is give you the synopsises of the main points of like all of these books. Like you can just go through all of these books that people, 100 recommended books that everybody should have read. And now you can just like get a synopsis of the book in a bite-sized bite, and then you're done, and you're one and done, and you move on. You've gotten everything you need to get out of that book. Like what? But I notice it even in myself. Like, and I feel like I've been a reader my whole life. But I definitely, we are used to scrolling through things now and getting a succinct thing and going on. And I think that our ability to concentrate on deeper things for longer periods of time is something in a social sense that we're starting to lose that ability to stay focused and concentrated on one topic for a longer period. So I think that that's going to be a very important card. It is already, but it's certainly, I think, going to become more of an issue. Yeah, like the cliff notes of the past, Wendy. Exactly. We have less attention span, Heather says, but need more focus. I know it's a cycle, but I do think it's a big issue. This is beautiful. Embrace meditation. Use meditation to access the spirit realms. And again, each of them gives you an action on how to actually do whatever it's asking you to do. Here is a powerful, so it gives you an actual meditation that you can do if you just don't even know, like, what does that even mean? What am I supposed to do about that? So I'm quite happy with this book in that they're giving you something like succinct. So if you're just pulling it up and you want to get the basic idea of what it means, then it kind of delves into it a little bit more deeper. And then it gives you something to actually do to put that into practice if you don't know where to start. Brienne says it's absolutely crazy. I'm a slow reader, but that ruins the book. Oh, I think you mean the succinctness. Yes. Yeah, you don't have to be a fast reader to enjoy a long book. You just taking your time with it. But yeah, I was horrified when I saw it's an app. I don't know what it's called. And if I knew what it was called, I wouldn't tell you what it's called. So you can't go and look at it. Moby Dick wouldn't be Moby Dick if you just summarize it and yes, could you get the overarching? Could I tell you my opinion of what the overarching point of Moby Dick is in a couple sentences? Sure. Does that mean that you've experienced Moby Dick? Absolutely not. Okay. So I love this. Again, it talks about how modern life is busy and chaotic, and we actually have to make space to stop and to chill and to meditate. And meditate can mean many different things. I think meditation, people get really put off with it. I had a strong meditation practice for many years. I lost that when my son passed away. I can't be that silent, but I can use like drums. I'm able to use my lap drum, and the vibration of it allows me to do some form of meditation that really breaks up in emotions. It generally makes me cry. But I have to do some things differently, but it doesn't mean you have to, I never meditated where like you quiet your brain, right? My brain does not stop. It's more about recognizing what's happening in your brain. The way I used to meditate was silence, candle. Any thought that came in, I just labeled it. If something came in, I just labeled it as a fear and let it go. Something came in, I labeled it as a memory and I let it go. If something came in, I labeled it as whatever it was, and just let it go. I didn't get stressed about it being there. I didn't get stressed about, having a silent mind. It was just being still, being quiet, and just allowing things to come in, and then just touching them. Like, it was always showed to me that if you think about, like, you're sitting in a pond that's like chest deep, warm water, and a leaf just comes floating up, and you just kind of touch it and it floats away. That was for me. For somebody who has a very crazy brain, that was the best way for me to meditate. Now I need something like the drum or something, and I haven't tried in a while. I need to probably try it again, but it was something I wasn't able to do for a while after that. But the drum is good for exactly that. My rattle, something like that, can really shake up and break up energy. That's very, very helpful. But anyways, I don't know why this is going to take longer than it needs to, doesn't it? Isn't it? It's okay. Ennoble your soul. It's time for you to embrace a higher level of responsibility. So we have two. We have sort of an angelic look, and then we have more of just a human look. I don't think, that's got more of a devil wing and more of an angel ring. I think it's interesting that the Ace of Hearts and the I don't know what that would be with the D and the diamonds below that. Let's see if it says, because I'm curious. At different moments in your life, you may feel lost and desire help from higher angelic beings. Yet, have you ever thought about the possibility that we are all on a journey of evolution, and that how you behave, treat others, think, and feel impacts whether these higher beings have the possibility to evolve or to be thwarted? For instance, you have a guardian angel. This angel respects your free will and can only help you if you're open and receptive to this help. This angel is with you in every incarnation, holding the threads of your karma, and has to go through all your ups and downs with you. I feel bad for my guardians. I don't think of my guardians as guardian angels, but it's the same concept. It's a familial, ancestral guardian that has gone through, I think, many lifetimes with me, and I do feel bad for them. You're being asked to bring your attention towards ennobling your soul by focusing on creating more loving relationships with those around you, becoming more kind and selfless, communicating with your angel on a daily basis, and asking how you can be of service to others rather than how you can get more for yourself. It is time for you to receive higher wisdom and to act in an honorable way to anyone who is around you, no matter how they are behaving. Thank you, Brianne. And I don't share these things for you to say, poor you. It's just, I had my son when I was 21. Everything that I have learned about being an adult, becoming an adult, being a human being, is wrapped up in my experiences of him. So it's kind of hard to separate that out. Plus his birthday's tomorrow. So, there's that. But this type of thing hits on some of those levels because it's how I learned how to be the person that I am today. So it's all gets tied into that. But okay, so that's that one. I love this puppet feel here. And examine your integrity. Stand strong in your convictions is what it's called. Your I has been weakened, which means that you're vulnerable to other people's influences. So really centering yourself back into where you are, getting recentered in your sense of truth and rightness so that you're able to move from a place of integrity. Again, I just feel like these aren't like titles and requests to do that we see in many oracle decks, in my opinion, so far. But I think that we don't want to be controlled by somebody else. We want to be in control of making right choices that are in alignment with our own integrity, our personal integrity, which I think is really beautiful. Experience rebirth. I love we can see the same person in different incarnations. And we can then see, of course, this splitting off too in the people that you're connected to. You're embarking on a great time of inner transformation. The next few months offer an opportunity for you to review your life in detail, delve deeper, because you're being asked to choose a new path that takes into consideration your sensitivity. I don't know, this right up here isn't to me as deep as you could go with this, because I just think this understanding that throughout our lifetime we experience different incarnations of who we are, right? As we need to be one thing for one time period, and then we shift, and now we're on this other place because this is what we need to be here. So we experience different incarnations of ourselves in our lifetime, let alone, I do believe in past life, so let alone the incarnations that we've experienced before and are going to experience again. So there's a lot to be like open and aware of the shift in incarnation that you might be having, a shift in self, writing sort of a new chapter to who you are is coming. I think that's really beautiful. Of course, I love any deck that has an ancestor card. And this is actually the card that Patrick pulled for me. He pulled a card from the Spirit Oracles for me, and that was the Deer card. And then he pulled this one from this deck, which is Explore Your Ancestry. And this was interesting because I had read the whole one on this because he had pulled it for me. But this is about working through your ancestral patterns and being aware of those patterns so that you can start the process of untangling those patterns, and be aware of the fact that you might just be, the way that you're acting is just the way that your ancestral patterns have set you out to act, and maybe you need to break that pattern. Now, sometimes those are good, and it's good to have those patterns, but sometimes those patterns are ones that your kind of job, your role at this point in the ancestral line is to break some of those patterns. And that starts with awareness of how are you falling into line with ancestral patterns that you don't realize that aren't helpful, and how are you doing it in ways that are helpful for you. So I thought this was really powerful. And of course, again, being aware of your ancestry and your patterns is an important part of my practice. Ooh, I like this, like listen, be quiet. There also does seem to be like card symbology I've seen in a couple little places that I quite like as somebody who loves playing cards. And I'll have to go back through it and see if I pick up on more than I've seen, but I do like that. How much is it on Amazon? I'm just curious, Heather. I just picked this up at Barnes and Nobles. I think it was like $16 on it. Books A Million. I don't have one super close to me, but it was 20. I think retail is 25. I don't think it shows on here, but I think it was 25. And then I had my 10% off. Focus on higher truths. Decipher between what is temporary and what is eternal. Whilst your truth constantly changes as you learn new things, it's important to develop a student-like mind. Like listen, right? Spend some of your day reaching for higher truths, thus building your soul strength and cleansing your spirit will not only serve you in this life, but also in future incarnations. I do personally like the fact that there is this understanding that we are putting out these patterns, right? In our lifetime, in multiple lifetimes, and in our ancestral patterns. So this really hits the spot for me. Pinky Little Mama says, what book deck do you recommend for working with ancestors? The book that I recommend is by, I can't see it from here, Daniel Foor, Foor, called, I believe, Ancestral Medicine. That's one that I do highly recommend. I have a couple others. I can't read them from here. I do have a workshop too that you can purchase on my site where I go into sort of everything that I think about ancestral workings as well. That's just I think it's a 3 or 4 hour workshop. I can definitely see this with the Tildwick for sure. It probably has that same color. I don't have that deck, but it has that open concept and the color tones. I can imagine that would go really well with this. Okay. Focus on higher truths. Okay, so that's that one. I do like that. Ooh, this is beautiful. Ground yourself. Again, we all need to hear this over and over. It's time for you to learn how to fully incarnate inside your body. They use the word incarnate a lot in different ways, which I quite like. The more connected you become with your body, the more insight, strength, and clarity you will experience. Having just felt completely trapped in my body by COVID. Of course, I'm going to cough. Yeah, I feel like I had too much consciousness of my body. But I agree with this. Okay. And again, it has action here, like action. Close your eyes. Say to yourself, I give myself permission to feel my body and receive deep and profound messages from it. Say, I give myself permission to be fully present in my body. I love my body and I'm grateful for it giving me the chance to experience life, taking slow breaths. So it gives you sort of a meditation on sort of centering and grounding in your body and through your body into earth as well. Ooh, this next one is beautiful. Oh, that's pretty. Oh, so there's two of these. There's it's a no and there's it's a yes. I really like the visual. Let me see if I can make this where we can see it. I actually have a couple decks that have yes and no cards. I actually quite like these because sometimes it's just there's something that you need to be aware of that it's a no right now. And generally when they come up, you have that hit of like, okay, like I know what you're talking about. And if it's a yes, it's something you might be holding back on. It's like, it's just time to say yes and get it and do it, like dive into it. So I know sometimes people with other decks that have this are kind of like, I don't know if that's very useful in a deck unless you're asking a yes and no question. But I will say if you give it a try, I have in the past taken these out of decks and I don't do that anymore because it really does tend to, again, if you're reading for yourself, you're like, okay, I know what I should be saying no to, or I know what I should be saying yes to. And I find that to be really helpful in a reading. And if I was getting this in a daily card, I would take the time to think about if I got, let's say it's a no, then I'm going to be watching for and paying attention to those places where I should be saying, no, you're having a lot of negative self-talk to yourself. So every time that comes up, nope, I'm not receiving that. And going through your day that way. And then if you have a yes, then maybe it's a day that you need to spend opening more up to potentials and saying yes to things throughout that day. So even in a daily reading, this can be very helpful. And so I really recommend not pulling them out, though I know I've done it in the past and I know of other people who pull out the yes and no's, but I really encourage you that they work for daily readings as well as in a reading itself. Hi, John. How are you? But I like this feels like a nope. I'm turning my back and saying no. And this is very that like open to the possibilities and open to saying yes. So visually, I feel like these are really beautiful. I am much better, John. Thank you so much for asking. I still have a lot of exhaustion. Um, that hits at strange times where I've just hit a wall and I can't do anything. But definitely much, much better than the last time you saw me. Thank you. Okay, so love those visually, love the cards. Yes, yes, yes. This one is a learn from karma. It says it's time to balance the scales. Your current experience, so whatever experience you're in right now, your current experience is a culmination of karma you've accrued through several lives. Now, again, if you don't believe in past lives, you can still work with a card like learn from karma, right? You don't have to work with the idea of karma itself, however you might utilize that. And trust me, there's different ways that people think about karma. It's not just you did something bad and now you're getting smacked upside the face. Ha ha ha, that's karma, right? You can still work with this understanding of karma and understanding that choices that you've made have led to this. Not always your fault because it's always choices you've made, but choices other people have made. And this combination of this has led you to the word, but you need to acknowledge where you've put yourself in this situation to some degree, because there's always some level, right? Unless you've literally just been hit by a car. A lot of times in every experience, there's some part where we have to just own our part of it. That doesn't absolve the person who's maybe wronged you you or something like that. It's just kind of facing where did the choices you made get you where you are, so that you can accept those, acknowledge where other people's choices have, and move down. It's similar to the Judgment card in tarot. So and again, this can just be experiences through this current lifetime if you don't work with past lives. As somebody who does work with past lives, I love these layers of ancestry and past lives that are here, but I don't think that should stop you from using a card like this, even if you don't believe in past life energy. Brienne, glad you're feeling better. I did. Yes, thank you so much. I am getting over COVID. Fun. Don't recommend. So yeah, there's that card. I like the sun and the moon here. And this kind of feeling of a wheel in the back of this as well. There seems to be, sorry, I know people don't like this, but I'm going to see, I see harm, Monday. Is there something down here? No. Looks like some astrological symbols, maybe. Copper, iron. Does it say anything about it? I like this image. No, I would like that. This deck definitely doesn't address the images and say, okay, you're seeing this here and this here, which I do love. Like, this is what these might mean or be about. So it doesn't do that. But otherwise, I do really like the write-ups in this deck. Ooh, that's beautiful. I love the pathway. That's a good question. I didn't say that. I'm sorry, Pinky Mama. 36. So that's a small deck. I prefer, like, generally you're getting 44 cards, and I prefer that, but you know, I don't see myself pulling a ton of these. Like, this is one I do see more of pulling a single card. So then that doesn't much matter for me. You're being guided in a new direction. There's a new path opening for you. And again, if you don't work with angels, you can still work with a card like this. I think most of us believe in guardian energy in some way. So whether that is I don't know where my phone is, to be honest. Okay. I don't know what's dinging away. But there, sorry about that. I know, don't blink. Yes, this is not giving that vibe. That's in that, what is that tarot deck? There is a tarot deck that the Judgment card is exactly like No, Don't Blink from Doctor Who. This does not have that. But this is beautiful. Like, I can work with this. I have guardian energy, and that they're opening a path for you. Are you going to step through it? Are you going to pay attention and step through it or not? It's just beautiful. I love the night sky. Again, I really love this artwork. It definitely has Christianized, like medieval Christian tones to it. But for me, it feels very shamanic-y. Hello, Al. Thanks for keeping me company on my drive back home. Oh, drive safely. Drive safely. Just listen. Don't tie. Oh, this is beautiful. Sorry. That's beautiful. Can we move a little bit closer in? Of course, now I'm going to cut some of it off. Look at that. I love all the blues. I feel like there's a lot of blue. You know, it's golden tones, but these pops of this really rich, that's almost like purple, just different shades of blue. I do feel really pop in here. See the blue there? The blue, you know, you often see in medieval paintings surrounding Mary, but this has a lot of pops of this gorgeous blue. I really like that in this deck. This is beautiful. Listen to your intuition. Almost like she's got an egg here. The bird dropping onto her finger. That is gorgeous. Your intuition is constantly sending your messages. And then there's an action about, you know, how can you develop your intuition even more? Absolutely gorgeous. Oops, I'm sorry, my mouse is. Oh, you're home safe. Okay, good. Good, good, good. This is beautiful. I love the feathers here. Love the bright blue. Love the bird landing. I get a lot of intuitive messages from birds, so I love that. It's just gorgeous. Love it. Love your body. So we had one. I always like to see if they overlap. But that one was more about grounding. And while you can use that to ground in your body, I would use the ground. Let me see if I can pull it. This is just ground yourself. And so while the guidebooks talked about grounding into your body space, I think that that to me is different energy than really focusing on your body itself and what it can do for you. And this is about creating a new perception of your body. How do you feel about your body? Do you constantly critique it, or do you listen to it and lovingly nourish and cherishes it? Any unconsciously or unconsciously harbored feelings of self-repulsion, rejection, frustration, anger, guilt will start to weaken various parts of your body. So you're being asked to tune in and work on creating a healthier inner environment. And sort of, yes, Heather, sorry, she distracted me. Griffin and Sabine, yes, and yes to the art. Connection. It even has a bit of a Myst feel. I don't know if you've ever read the actual books of the game Myst, but it even has sort of a feel like that, like the puzzles and just the colorations of what, at least the version of Myst that I had. So this is really beautiful. I think a lot of us do have those things, and we just have to understand that certain ideas and thoughts that we have, it can impact our sense of health. So that understanding of how our perception of self can impact how we treat ourselves, and then of course how we then feel because of the way that we treat ourselves. So I think a lot of us have that sort of issue. And so coming to see the strengths of our body in different ways and how those connections are being made could be very powerful. Oops, I didn't. Yes, it is very deep, almost like an old soul past life. Yes. Okay, here we have minimize guilt. Take steps towards noble thoughts, feelings, and action. Whilst a little bit of guilt can be healthy in letting you know the difference between what is right and wrong. Right. It's not that we should not have any guilt. Guilt is a proper emotion at times. If we do questionable things or things that we know are as off the path of our own sense of ideals and our own sense of integrity, guilt is there to warn us. Just like if we're walking past a really creepy alleyway, fear is there to say, you know what, that's probably not real smart for you to go there. Pain is there to tell us don't touch that. That's hot, right? I read a fabulous book when I think when my son was first born, by Philip Yancey. And he's definitely he's a Christian writer, but I don't remember because it was so long. It's literally in like 91 or 92. But it was called something about pain. But it went through working with, I know this is way off topic, but it comes together, I promise. But it's about working with people who have leprosy, and part of leprosy is that they don't feel pain, so they lose their pain receptors, and they don't know when they've broken their foot, or they don't know they've got a wound somewhere, and they can't feel that. And there's part of leprosy. Part of the issue with leprosy is the lack of pain. We need pain to tell us certain things. It's just when it gets too much, we have too much guilt, or we have too much fear and it gets in our way, or we have too much pain that keeps us from being able to function. But healthy doses of these things are good. So I do like that they at least put that. But too much guilt can place you in a state of constant self-sabotage, self-harm, sickness, and an egotistic, it's all about me attitude. Guilt can either ask you to look at what you feel you've done wrong and create new possibilities of behaving, or encouraging you to continue doing the very thing that you feel guilty about. If left unchecked, guilt and shame can eat away at your body and manifest as heart disease, liver disease, asthma, migraines, weight gain, insomnia, and a host of other issues. This card asks you to evaluate what you feel guilty about and make a decision to change, if it's a healthy guilt. again, I always say, because I was raised fundamental Christian, I'm born and bred into feeling guilty about my very existence, which is a joke, but it's also sadly the truth. So I need to I have always had to work hard and say, okay, should you really feel bad about that? Do you need to apologize for that? Do you have to say sorry because somebody just ran into you? Like, you didn't do anything. You're just there, right? Um, but um but there is, so being able to assess whether you're feeling guilt, is it for a real reason? Okay, then use it as an opportunity to change the direction that you're going in. If it's an exaggerated one, then use it as an opportunity, obviously, to kind of get beneath that and realize that you need to let that go. So again, I like that. Minimize it. Take what's healthy and good to help you self-check and self-regulate, but do the work in releasing and minimizing what isn't healthy for you to have hold of. Practice positivity, stop judging, and start looking for the good. So this is interesting, right? Because we, I think, definitely are a little bit tuned into being a little bit careful of toxic positivity, because that can certainly be a problem. But I do think that it's important as much as possible to approach life from a more positive outlook, right? There's no question to me that if I'm in a really dark space, my experience of life is going to be darker and is going to be muted and is going to be less good coming to me, because I'm just walking around in this miasma of darkness, right? That isn't a healthy way to approach the world. But so I do think I'm on a general rule, I am a Pollyanna. I'm a more positive personality type. And that can be annoying to people who are not so, but I do think it's important to at least move forward. Overall, I give myself chances to wallow. I will literally give myself time frames. I had to learn this with my son, him being sick, and my daughter, hospital stays would interrupt, and we would have to be like, okay, we're going to sit, and we're home from the hospital. We're going to sit on the couch. We're going to watch movies today. We're going to wallow because that whole thing just sucked royally. But then tomorrow we're going to get up and we're going to move forward, because we can't live like that. Even though there was legitimate reasons to be disgusted and tired and mad and angry, we'll acknowledge those things. We'll give them the space, but then we can't stay there. I'm not going to let you live your life like in the miasma of negativity, even if it's real reasons to be. So I like a card like this. Again, always being careful that we're not using positivity to cover up what real issues that we need to face. But I think having a healthy, positive attitude is important. Just all things in balance, right? This is beautiful. I also like, let me just say this, sorry. I also really like, this kind of has an inner child feel to it, right? So it kind of has that sense of being open to the possibilities and things of that nature, that being positive does kind of keep you open to seeing positive things and having people react to you in positive ways. So it has a bit of an inner child feel to it that I like. Time frames, yes, for sure. But this is beautiful. I really like this card. Recognize divine timing. That's true too. Thank you, Wendy. That's a good way to put it, because you have that guilt, which is more of a shadow thing, and then we have a sort of counterbalance of positivity to that. Yeah, I would say this is definitely not a deck that is heavy on the overly saccharine, too sugary sweet feel by no stretch of the imagination. I actually feel like this works with a lot of difficult topics, which I quite love. And I'm getting the little signal. Let me check something on my internet. So somebody can let me know if you can still hear me. I'm going to go over. Looks like it's working. I'm going to wait till I hear if somebody can still see me. Let me click on. my network. I'm getting this little symbol that I've gotten before when we got really choppy. So I'm not sure. Oh, I'm good. Okay. Okay, I'll stop looking then. Okay. There's this like a little Wi-Fi symbol will pop up on StreamYard, and it only pops up when it's kind of struggling with the internet. So I wasn't sure. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Okay. Recognize divine timing. What you truly desire is on its way. So we do have a card. So we've got the positivity card, and we have the card that is the card that generally annoys me, right? In sort of these types of new age, I want to say Hay House decks, but that's not really fair because they do have some good decks, but they do tend to often lead to that more you are exactly where you need to be in the universe. And when you get that, when you're experiencing really difficult things, like that's annoying. Like if you're literally in the midst of grief and loss and you get a card that's like, oh, you are exactly where you need to be. The universe has you right where you need to be. And then you're like, I'm not going to put the finger up, but you just want to be, well, this is what I think about you, universe, right? Thank you very much. So this doesn't give me that vibes, right? But it is understanding that sometimes things are in the timing that they need to be, and it doesn't quite have that reaction that I normally have to cards like that. Let's see what it's saying as an action. Take some deep breaths in and focus on creating a sense of equanimity in your body. Ask for what you desire, then add, I ask my higher self to bring XYZ into my life. Imagining opening your heart and joyfully receiving what it is you desire. So this is definitely opening yourself up to divine timing. I definitely think that you can work with this in a way like this doesn't irritate me like many of these do. And I feel like I can take this and work with this in a sense that things happen in their time. And sometimes that time is out of our scope and out of our understanding. And so I think that is something that's important to show up in a reading. And this one doesn't annoy me as some of them do. Not everybody has that reaction. I definitely have that reaction. I definitely couldn't read like coping with grief books. Don't even get me started. Most of those just read like cheerleader books. It's like I am in the worst agony I've ever been in, and you're talking to me like, a cheerleader, and it's like, no, I'm not there. But yes, thank you, Heather. That's a better way to put it. These do not blow sunshine. Exactly. But there is that understanding that there is this bigger time pattern that's playing out, and being aware of that, I think, can be very helpful. Hello, Natalie. Nick Bantock of Griffin and Sabine. Oh, I did not know that. I've seen those at Barnes and Nobles. I almost picked it up, but again, because of the Super Oracle, I was really not inclined to pick them up. But I might because you told me that. Anyways, okay. So yeah, I'm happy with this one for that type of a card. Ooh, that's beautiful. Release fear. I really like this door. Like because of her fear, she's trapped behind this door and she's just kind of peeking out at the world because her fear has her stuck. And again, so I love this because we had the guilt one, but the same thing like I talked about with guilt. Fear is good and necessary to keep us from, jumping off of a cliff that we're going to die if we jump off of it, or going down, hallways or alleyways that there is a good likelihood you could get mugged down that alleyway, right? We need to have common sense, and we need fear and guilt, and these things are there for a reason. It's just when they're exaggerated so much that it keeps you trapped behind a door. I like this imagery. Oops, I pulled too far forward. Start viewing life from a perspective of faith. Not sure about that, but you're only seeing one tiny aspect of the picture, and this keeps you stuck in a situation you don't want to be in, because you're just seeing everything from this door where you've got one eye from the perspective of you're hiding in the door. And so really to get a good look at what's happening so that you can be able to, yes, use healthy fear, but not fear that really keeps you so trapped and bound. This would be very good in a reading. Again, I just feel like we don't get these kind of concepts in a lot of oracle decks. I'm really loving this. Here's relieve anxiety. This is beautiful. I like the different faces. Again, his use of blue is beautiful. Slow down and connect to your inner self. Your body is showing you that something is out of alignment. You have pushed down numerous traumatic experiences, and your inner being is overwhelmed by too many charged and conflicting energies. If you continue pushing, forcing, and ignoring all the signs, you'll be heading for an internal breakdown. Your inner wisdom is eager to come out and show you the different way of living life. See, I like this because it's saying if you're anxious, there is a reason for the anxious, right? For that anxiety, and your body's trying to tell you something. If you keep shoving that down and shoving that down, at some point you will have to pay the piper and deal with that, because you can only shove so much down. I love that. Aisha said, I saw something else that Alicia, plus with only one eye. That is, yes, that is amazing. If you're looking just with this one eye, you lose depth. I love that, Alicia. I might write that into the guidebook. Love it, love it. LiberX, that's how I see your name, is LiberX, and it's not. It's Liber88X, but I see it as LiberX. I have the Archeo deck. He wrote stories for each card. Oh, I'm going to have to get it just for that. I didn't know it was by the same person. Thank you, Heather, for pointing that out. Anyways, love this. So we've got guilt, we've got fear, we've got anxiety. Really beautiful. I read an ancient book where they basically said it was a mindset and you just have to ignore it. Oh, yeah, no. Or when you're raised Christian and they say just to pray about it. Let me tell you how well that works. Now, I'm not saying that praying is a bad thing, but sometimes you need a little more than just praying. Like, that can be part of it if that's your mindset. It can be a good thing, but not if that's just the answer to all, like, literal clinical depression or other problems, is just to pray about it. It's not going to help. This is beautiful. Look at this. I'm going to pick this up. Oh, come on, focus. So she's got this, you can almost see like this angel trying to rise up, being tied down, her higher self being tied down. And she's got the scissors where she's going to relinquish control and cut that thread. That's really beautiful. Let go of controlling behavior. Instead of empowering you, control can turn into an aggressive presence when the person you're trying to influence does not adhere to your wishes. So this is about controlling other people, but I think also doing that control for yourself as well. Right? This can be on many different levels depending on what you're reading. I really like the cutting the thread here, because that happens a lot. I think this could even come into, you just have a connection that's still, like, magically speaking or energetically. Sometimes you've just got this unhealthy tie that's there and you need to cut that line. I just feel like that imagery itself could come up in a lot of different ways in readings. I quite love that. Here we have reverse disassociation. Give yourself permission to feel. It can be easy to disassociate from your feelings when the challenges of life become too overwhelming. This can occur when we hold on to suppressed, unacknowledged, painful, or traumatic experiences and allow ourselves to be bombarded by the noises of the outside world, from watching too much TV to listening to loud music to engaging with social media. When we constantly run from one sensation to another, our nerves become numbed and we begin to feel empty inside. In order to recover your sensitivity and aliveness, you need to slow down, connect to your body. There's a lot of talk in this deck of connecting to your body, connecting to higher self, but really being fully present and aware within yourself through difficult things as well as positive things, which I think is pretty powerful. Connect to your body and give yourself permission to feel. So instead of that disassociation, which is separating away, it is saying reverse that and give yourself permission to feel. Stop running away from those things and allow yourself to actually be present and feel. So you could also say be present, right, in this kind of a card. It's really powerful. I like the key, though. almost like you hold the key to that. Show self-respect. It's time to get to know your inner self. Self-respect requires you listen to the cycles of your body and your inner voice, as well as discern what behaviors, relationships, environments, food, beverage, work, etc. are healthy for you. So yeah, know what's healthy for you and do the things that are healthy for you. Show yourself some self-respect. There's a lot of ways that that could show up in a reading, right? Relationship issues, personal issues with food and all those kinds of things. I feel like there's a lot of ways that that could come up in a reading. And again, I just feel like none of these, not none of these, some of these show up in decks, but I've not seen a deck in a while that had so much. And again, the titles are very action oriented. Do this, show yourself some respect, reverse the disassociation, relinquish control, right there. Do this. It's not just this is what it is. It's telling you to do something about it, whatever the situation is, that I really like. I definitely agree that it doesn't talk about the art at all. So Aisha is saying the Amazon reviews of this deck say that the guidebook is overly critical. I'm not picking that up. It's definitely looking at hard topics. I don't necessarily see it as being critical. It's just telling you this is a problem and now you need to do something about it. So I guess to somebody looking for an oracle deck that is very affirming and just, everything is good, everything is wonderful, you're beautiful, you're all these things. Instead, it's saying you need to find the path to seeing yourself as beautiful. So it's got maybe a harsher note than some of the softer decks have. But I mean, and that's an individual thing, right? Sometimes we're not in the position emotionally to deal with the hard, you know what, you need to do something about it. This has to me a very much, I do a lot of work and most of my readings for myself are in ancestor space. My ancestors have this sort of a tone to it, like look, or grandmother energy. Like if you look at the Weaver's Oracle, that is not particularly a smushy, lovey, gooey deck. It calls you out and it takes you to difficult, pokey places. And you have to definitely be in the space to do that. I also have beautiful, soft, huggy, affirming decks for when I know I'm not in the space to be called out. This deck does seem like it will call you out, and so use it when you're in the place to get called out and do something about it. If you're not in the place to do something about it, then maybe this would feel harsher, but I don't get the sense of that. It feels much more like my experience with ancestor energy or grandmother energy that really does, as Heather said, ask us to do the work, acknowledges why we're there, but asks us to do the work of getting ourselves out of it because nobody can do it but ourselves. So yeah, I think I could see where people in a modern oracle term would find this to be a harsher deck in that sense. But I don't get the sense that it's critical of the person. It's just saying this is what's happening and probably why it's happening. Now, here's something that you can actually do to start to change this. So I find it to be more empowering you to do the work that needs to be done. But again, I'm just got this. I haven't worked with this for a long time, but so far I'm not seeing that as being harsh. Yes, Roberta, it's definitely not sugarcoating, but that's how, for me, ancestor energy is, grandmother energy is they're not playing around, and they really do expect that you've got work to do, and are you willing to show up and do it? I think we could use a little bit more of that in decks, to be honest. But I will say, I'm sorry, I'm trying to find Aisha's message because I do agree with the reviews. It doesn't speak to the art. I have a feeling that the art was pre-existing. This artist did the art and the deck was made from it, but I haven't found any of it to be clashing with it either. So personally, obviously that's going to be each person's decision to make seeing it. A lot of it does work really well with the meanings, and the ones that aren't super close don't disrupt the meanings of the cards. I'm glad to see an alternative to Sugary Sweet decks. Yeah, and again, I have Sugary Sweet decks and I use them. There are times that I need it. I just need somebody to come out of the cards and give me a hug, and I have a whole video on sugarcoating coded decks, right? So I think that there is a time for that. And it's really, decks in general are really important to you to know what is the purpose of this deck, right? What is this deck doing? And is this in alignment with what you need, or pick a different deck, right? Because maybe that's not the deck for you to pull. And that's about like knowing yourself and pulling the right deck for what you're trying to do. Yeah, definitely. Definitely, Lenore. There's a numbness and a drifting feeling that can accompany a person after trauma. The messages are about bringing yourself back to the world of the living. Yes. And there's a point in which you're not ready for that, but this is the card deck that you would pull, I think, when you're ready to do the work. HP Nye says, I'm wondering how the art connects to the message. So for me, that most of them have. Like this one, I don't know. I still feel like this person feels like they're standing in their own power. So that works. This definitely, cutting that and let go of the control definitely works. I like the reversal of images. I think that works with reverse disassociation. The anxiety I feel with this here, and I like the shining of the light on the anxiety. So I have to say that most of the images to me have gone along with the theme of the card. And the couple that haven't been super strong, I don't find an issue with it. This goes really well with it. Even this does to me. I think there's a sense of, look, time is flowing by as it's going to flow by. And sometimes you're just caught in a bigger timing cycle. So for the most part, I actually do like that. Feels like inner child and a place to be positive from and experience awe and wonder from. So I'm not really getting a distinct issue with the images, even though I do think this probably was pre-existing art. Is my guess. I don't know that, but my guess is this was pre-existing art. But I actually think it's working really well with it. But that's I mean, other people have been watching this walkthrough, so they can say how they feel about it as well. It's a healing deck, as the title say. To bend a broken leg, it must first be put back. That's a yes. Very true. Very true. Healing does not happen without introspection and pain. Yeah. And so I can definitely see where, if you think about what most Oracle decks are, that this could be shocking to somebody maybe that has only had really positive spaced Oracle decks. I could see where this would be a little bit off-putting because you're not used to that type of a deck. But I personally think we need decks like this. Same thing with like the review that I did. Was it the last one that I did? The Book of the Dead Oracle. That is an amazing deck, and I have used it for myself and for clients. I've just started using that with clients and ancestor readings, and it's really works beautifully, and I love the deck. But it is not a deck to pick up if you're not willing to travel the shadow spaces and the valley of the shadow of death and those types of things. It's not a deck for me to pick if I'm going into ancestor space and I just need support. I'm not going to use that deck necessarily, but when I'm ready to go into the spaces that I need to go in, I'm going to pick that deck. So I think we need that option, and we just need to be self-aware of what we need when we're pulling a deck. Okay. Hopefully that answers. Thank you though for putting that. I haven't looked at any of the reviews, so I appreciate that, Aisha. This is beautiful. This was obviously the picture on the cover of the deck. Has a very Two of Swordsy feels. A step into the unknown. It's time for you to trust your inner calling. This could relate to starting a new business, starting a family, doing a course of study. It's time to just take that step in, even though you don't know how it's going to work out. Again, I like the actions. Take positive action to do something new and courageous within 48 hours. The action could be small, like making a phone call, sending an email. I talk a lot about that in readings, that, we can't usually jump from here to here. So our taking a step in the unknown isn't generally just, sometimes it is like picking up and driving and moving to a new place. Sometimes it's big like that, but sometimes it's just making positive movements forward into, trusting, like, I'm going to just take a leap. I'm going to send the email. I'm going to put my resume out. I'm going to do this, just one step to get it to move ourselves outward. So I really like this card. I like it. I also like that. I don't know if you see that, the A to B, like getting from A to B. It's not always a big step. Sometimes it is, and sometimes it's a little step. So that's what I mean by the art. Like this to me goes very well with Step into the Unknown. She's blindfolded. She doesn't know how it's going to work out. She's going from point A to point B. I think it's really beautiful. Yeah, I wish that that was the case. That would be one of my criticisms, would be Milo. Milo says that, is there a deeper symbolism? If there is, we aren't given access to it. Now, some people can see that as a good thing, right? You can have your own personal intuitive hits, and there's a lot to pull from. If you're an intuitive reader from images, being able to something to jump out at you like the A and B, there's a lot of things that you can pull into intuitively. The book does not talk about those, which I do love. If a deck says, okay, well, this is here because notice the A and the B taking you from point A to B. Notice that she's blindfolded. Notice that she has the lemon scott behind her, or the mandorla that's being created by the two circles behind her head, meaning that her head space is the most important thing in the deck. There's the key. She holds the key to stepping into the unknown. Like there's a whole bunch of things that you could hit from, but it is not lined out in the guidebook. But it also leaves a lot of stuff to pull from intuitively. So, that can be a good thing or bad. That's beautiful. Again, the use of blue in this deck is gorgeous. Sorry, hopefully that answered the question. I think there is, but I don't think it's definitely not talked about. Stop breaking agreements. Allow others to develop trust in you. That's a call you out on the carpet. Isn't it? I think Patrick got this one. I could be wrong, but I think it was this one. And it really came up in a positive way, because it's not just about breaking agreements with other people. We also set a lot of things in agreements for ourselves, and we break them over and over again. So having that sort of a card that says, think about the things that you've promised to yourself or you promised to others, and you're not holding up on those. Sometimes we need to hear that. And it also kind of goes with that boundaries one, like learn to say no, or when you need to say no, don't say yes all the time, because you can't keep up to those things. So if you've set good and healthy boundaries, you won't have so much of an issue with keeping to the things that you agree to do or put out there either. So that idea of boundaries and breaking of agreements, I think, really go hand in hand in a cool way in this deck. It's a beautiful card, though. And again, she's holding the horse head, the knights. So in the way her hand is, it's like, okay, be active, go out there and be, versus continually cutting that thread here, maybe that you're supposed to be doing. So I don't see this image particularly as strongly supporting the image, but it certainly doesn't, to me, hinder the image. And I think there are things that you can pull out of this to utilize. I don't use images as strongly as other people. Things will jump out at me. I'm more interested in the titles, but that's just me. Ooh, I could see it with Majestic Earth. Again, Deirdre, I don't think there was any, to be honest. I think that these were pre-existing artworks, but I feel like it's, instead of breaking, like this is almost like a contract or that ribbon running through. And if you're always cutting that, right, if you're always breaking your promise to yourself or to other people, instead she is moving alongside of it and following that agreement. That's how I would see it. But I think, again, it was probably pre-existing artwork. Take positive action. Stop procrastinating. I need this one. Stop procrastinating and delaying what needs to be done. So sometimes we do procrastinate. We know what we're supposed to be doing, but we just don't do it. And so this is just like, stop doing that and just do it. I do like the bathtub and the ship sail. Again, it's kind of that surrealist, kind of quirky style art. It's definitely a mix of, like, I think he did a good explanation of his art style when it said here, an evocative mix of the mystical, the profound, and the absurd. It is classical yet surreal, contemporary yet historical. I think that's a very good expression of this his artwork. But we have that sort of sail kind of energy that's going on here. I almost feel like she needs to turn the sail, right? Because she's got her hand on the sail. It's time for her to turn the sail, right? So that the wind can catch it and start pulling her forward. But she's got to take that action, that instead of having the sail, if you've ever watched people with sails, grab the rigging and swing the boom. And I don't know sail language, right? But right now, the wind is blowing her backwards. So she's got to turn that sail around, and her hand is on it. And she's got to turn that sail around so then she can start getting blown forward. So again, I feel like the art does work. You've just got to be willing to play and sort of enter that space, which I think is really beautiful. Here we have temper your criticism. I do like the shushing and the clubbing your ears, because some of it's not listening to criticism as well. So I do, again, I like the image in these images in this deck. Become discerning instead of critical. When you're critical, you harden yourself and literally put energetic knives into others and into yourself. Self-criticism is a big issue. You also block yourself from becoming more refined, sensitive, intuitive human being. Your healing pathways get blocked. Your bones and your muscles begin to degenerate. When you are harsh and critical with yourself, you lose your life force energy, your self-esteem. You become depressed. Your ability to be flexible, think deeply, and receive new, higher wisdom is also limited. Start looking for what is good, holy, and beautiful in each person, including yourself. Develop discernment while still encouraging yourself and others to grow. Can I say a silly thing? I absolutely love that this writer uses whilst. I am a big fan of saying whilst, even though some people think it's very weird and will laugh at you about it. I love the word whilst. It's just a word I like. And I love that it's being used in this deck descriptions. Anyways, this is very powerful because it does, again, so that's why I'm saying I don't see this as being harsh. It's understanding what, when we're critical to other people, we're doing and how that limits our experiences with them. And it also says what, if we are being critical to ourselves, what is the consequences of that? And then saying, look, you need to start being more discerning. Don't be critical, be discerning, so that you can tell when you need to healthily say, okay, that's a problem. And when it's, all full steam ahead. So I like that this card is here, and I don't feel like, I just think it's calling you to have more discernment about your criticisms, both inward and outward. And I think we need that. HP Nye says, I would see this as just sailing around in your thoughts and emotions, but not actually moving anywhere. Yeah, that's good too. That works. Now you got to get out of the bathtub and start moving somewhere, I guess. This is beautiful because we haven't seen much red. Transform anger. So that red really stands out, doesn't it? Because there's so much blue in the deck. And then, obviously we see red with anger. Use your anger as a catalyst for change. So again, change and this idea of the winds turning, the winds are blowing in a new direction. There's an east wind blowing, that change in the way that those flip around and around. To me, that goes with the idea of utilizing anger to change. So I can get with that. In the past, anger has given you the right to blame other people for your limitations. It's time for you to face your anger and allow it to energize you instead of draining you. If there are things that are not working in your life, take responsibility and steps to change them. You can no longer use anger to give you a false sense of pride and justify criticizing, putting down, or resenting others. This definitely calls you out. This is definitely a deck that's saying, look, how are you utilizing your anger right now? Healthy anger, again, is good, but if you're utilizing it to stop you from actually accomplishing things, just blaming other people instead of making the changes that you need, at some point that's not going to be super helpful to you. It definitely is a call to action on all these things, which involves a bit of a call out. If you're angry about a specific situation in society, transform your anger into passion and create positive change. Create the change you want to see, in the world. I'm liking this deck. The figures and drape gowns. Yes, it does remind me of Elizabeth on Earth decks. Yes, it does. Has that surreal aspect to it in the drapey fabric. Yes. Nice. Yes, exactly. HP9. It's not shutting down the anger. It's saying, how do you shift that and use it? I know. I agree, Miss Veronica. I'm quite loving this. Now, I did see this when I zipped through them. I am not a fan of one card in a deck being landscape. To me, that's I understand why, because they wanted to use this image, but to me, it's a little bit lazy. Like, pick a different image or create the image in a way that you can put it upright. That kind of annoys me. It's not enough to stop me from using the deck, but I'm not a fan of that. There's no other cards like that. And so it's like, not liking it. However, I will say this. Because the card is Unlock Your Heart, I do like the idea of having to rotate it, and you're literally making the motion of unlocking something. You just got to take if you love a deck and there's one problem, you got to figure out a way to work around it. This for me is always going to be now associated with unlocking my heart, because I literally have to turn the key and unlock it. And now I fixed it for myself. I still think it's lazy and it shouldn't be that way. Unlock your heart. Pain can cleanse the way to profound wisdom. See, again, it's really saying, look, there is going to be pain. We have pain. Let's not pretend that we don't have pain. We have pain. But how are we going to use it? If you keep protecting yourself from being hurt, you will stop yourself from experiencing an intimate, delicious, earth-shattering, life-enhancing, sacred relationship. When a protected heart bursts open, there is pain, sadness, fear, rejection, brokenness, and a host of other unprocessed emotions. But nothing compares to the possibility of listening, trusting, and following the ancient wisdom that lives in a heart that has gone through pain, struggle, and loss, and has come out on the other side with warmth, humility, compassion, and selfless action. I mean, it's like, you want to say, like, preach, right? Like, preach, sister. You're speaking what we need. It's not this whole deck doesn't seem to be ignoring the fact that there is anger, there is fear, there is all these things, but what are we going to do with these, right? We don't want to stay in this place in which we're just like not going to open ourselves up to things. Do we want to live the rest of our lives that way? So I'm enjoying this deck greatly, and I fixed that for me. I hope I fixed that for somebody else. HP not had on my brain. Yes, I gotta. I love the rest of the deck, so I have to just like, all right, fine, I'll work with that way. All right, last card. You have support. You're receiving more help from the heavenly host than you can imagine. Again, here's your hug. I like a hug in a, it's not a whole hug deck, but it definitely has a hug card here. This understanding that you are being supported. This may be depending on the way that you see the world. This may be your guardian angel. This may be God. This may be, goddess energy. This may be your ancestors. This may be actual people around you and friends. I need this a lot. I get cards like this because I don't often reach out when I need to have. I have friends that are supportive, and I don't allow people to support me all the time. So it's like, look, you aren't alone. You have support. Be open to that and feel that. So this is really a beautiful deck. I am quite pleased. Let me zoom back out here. I know my whole table is crooked. I don't know what happened. I obviously must have hit my thing, so I apologize, but we've been zoomed in. Well, what is somebody talking about? Has anyone read the story, The Rocking Horse Winner? I don't think I have. I'm going to write it down so that I will look it up. I'll probably go see what it is and say, oh, yes, I know what that is. But right now it's not hitting on my brain. I will look it up, though. Excuse me. At least there were no oh dear. Yes, there are none of these cards that I feel like were that crazy clown cat clown. So I feel like we have definitely improved on some decks. I'm really pleased with this. Let's give it a shuffle. Again, Rockpool Publishing decks are really thin cardstock. This is a small deck. It's only 36 cards. I would have liked at least the 44. But again, I don't see myself pulling multiple cards. At most, I see myself pulling one or two. Like I might pull something in light and something in shadow, or I might just pull a single card. I don't think I would necessarily pull, 5 cards with this deck anyway. So that doesn't much matter to me. But as I said, while Rockpool is thin cards, it's definitely shiny, slippy cards. They hold up well. I've had a lot of shuffling on some of my Rockpool decks, and they don't chip. I personally have not experienced chipping with my Rockpool decks, so they feel like they're cardstock that might chip, but I've not had that. So I appreciate a good Rockpool deck. I feel like over the years they have really stepped up their game with interesting decks that are always kind of surprising hits. So let's just pull one and see what we get. Maybe we'll pull a light and shadow and see how that would work. Al and I were hoping for a crazy cat. No, I am not hoping for a crazy cat. None of these, other than the one being landscape. Like I just feel like there's no call for that. If a mix, then fine. I probably won't buy the deck. If it's but if there's just one, not a fan. But it's unlocked. Now I've got it. I love that card. I'll be happy when it comes up. All right. Okay, so I'm going to actually pull this one in light and this one in shadow. So that works. I think that works really well. So you could see how you could use that. Let's zoom in a little bit more. So we have the ennoble your soul, right? You're going to choose how you're going to present yourself on that one. So in light, this is what we should be doing in a positive sense. And what's in shadow, because this minimized guilt is in shadow, then I would assume that there are some issues surrounding guilt. Excuse me. I didn't have time to warn you. Let me take a drink. Sorry. Two hours is apparently a little much. Class tomorrow is going to be interesting. I'm going to come with cough drops in hand. But I could really see how we could see this in light and shadow, really thinking about the shadow aspect of guilt and how it might be playing into things, but instead working towards ennobling the sword and lifting that energy upward, right? Let's just pull a couple random ones just to see in light and shadow. You have shadow issues surrounding death. That makes sense. But don't worry, you have support and you're going to have support in the hereafter. Again, I'm not trying to read here strong, but I could see any of these, right? Stop breaking agreements. If you're looking at it light, you're saying, okay, move forward, just move forward, make a commitment and go forward. And then obviously tempering your criticism, that means that you're having a shadow issue surrounding criticism, of whether that's self-inflicted or pointed outward, or even listening to other people's criticism of you, really thinking about how that's affecting beneath the surface. So I feel like all of these, you can really see the light and you can see the shadow. Anger is a shadow aspect here. You haven't been transforming that. You're just being consumed in it. Some way it's affecting your ability versus, okay, what's the light aspect as you're coming into the light? Then that's your positive action. Turn that sail around and start moving forward. I feel like this works really well. I think each card, you can easily dive into the light of it or into the shadow of it if you needed to. I don't know what I don't know what that is. I will write it down. I know that Europe calls things that I know once I know what it is. I'm so sorry. I think I've reached the limit of my talking. But I don't know what that is. I think that we may have something like it, but it's probably called something different here. Because I feel like there's things like that. Tamal. Question mark. I will have to look that up. Are you from Europe, John? I'll ask you that. If you're because you're probably from Europe, is my guess. The card color tone matches your desk from. Yes, I totally agree with that. Okay. What I think I truthfully, there's so much gold here that I actually think I'm going to stick with, instead of going dark, I think I'm going to go with my usual 026. Let's just do a couple of the cards and see. Vitamin C. I am taking vitamin C. Yep. I knew that sounded like a, yeah, I like this a lot. Yes, I did. Hello, Lisa. I absolutely love it. We are definitely vibing on it here tonight. I think overall, I'm just going to do a few of these so you can see what they look like piled up. And then I'll wrap this up, because for a 36 card deck, I don't know how we ended at 2 hours. This one's starting to get chewed up. I don't know if you can see it, but that one is, I'm going to have to retire this one. That's leaving bits on my cards. Hello, Cassie. I am looking forward to tomorrow as well. We start week 1 of my tarot class, my yearly tarot class, and it is always fun to dive into, although nobody generally loves, I mean, people love them, but my week 1s are usually a lot of information overload, but I love talking to a bunch of people interested in tarot. Nerdy Snaily, also someone in UK like me, and I still awake. I have insomnia. I am with you on the insomnia. I feel your pain. Okay, is that enough so we can get a feel for it? I think so. I like to stack them on. Okay. So that's, oh yeah, I really like that color. Can you see that? I don't know how well it's showing up, but I think you should be able to see that. That looks really good. And then I also like to do it the other way. Yeah, that looks really good with the cards. So I will definitely finish up that. So that is Tombow 026. It just makes like a matte kind of antiqued gold. I use it on a lot of edgings. I use them on a lot of edgings. So it's just a good one when you don't know what other color, or if it's really gold tone like this. How far before your classes or signups close? I don't close them because you can watch them for these type. I don't close them because you can watch back the ones that you've missed. Like if you sign up next week, you can just watch back the class that you've missed. So there's not really a closing on it. Did you color the? Yeah, so I'm just coloring just the edge. So I'm just running the marker along, and you'll have to test. Tombow doesn't bleed off for me. I don't have any issue with Tombow. It's a water-based marker. Some people have sweatier hands and maybe will have an issue. I always recommend, if you're new to edging, get a cheap deck of playing cards or something and edge it in the color, the marker that you want to use. Do some shuffling with it. But once this dries, I don't have any issue with Tombows. I obviously don't get my decks wet. If my decks do get wet, then I have a bigger problem. But yeah, I'm just taking the marker, the brush tip of it, and I'm just sliding it along the edge of the card, then rotating it, make sure you get the corner, and sliding it around the card. It's a really great way to sort of finish a deck off, and it's a really great way to kind of spend a card. I will start shuffling this. Tombows dry really fast. I don't have any kind of issue with Tombos. So, by the time I'm finished, I'm perfectly happy to shuffle them up. Other types of ink, you have to wait longer. I don't know. For me, Tombow dries pretty fast. So I don't have any issue. But you can see that it definitely gives sort of an aged, and this color is not a bright gold. It's got a kind of antiqued, muted, matte gold that I really love. I use it on a lot of decks. You can microglaze. So what is that? Tell us what that means, Heather. I'm not sweaty, so I don't have an issue with that. What would you glaze over it? John says, can you do that with most cards? Yes. Yep, these are Tombos. I use them for almost everything, but again, I don't have an issue with these with this Tombow ink. These are Tombos, and there's a brush on one end and there's a bullet on the other end. I use the brush end for it, and I do it on all kinds of cards. If you're lucky and the card gives you an extra card to try, always test it, because you have to be careful that, there are some cardstocks that can suck it up, especially Sharpie ink. Yeah. So Sharpie, if depending on what kind of a lamination is used, sometimes Sharpie gets like sucked into this is porous, right? This is porous paper. It's a raw paper edge. I'm so sorry. It's a raw paper edge, and there's lamination on both sides. So sometimes if you use something like alcohol ink, it gets sucked into the paper and it shows up and bleeds under the lamination. I saw somebody who had done it, broke my heart. They had taken Sharpie ink to a Baba Studios deck. Those are expensive decks. And it just sucked it and ruined it. It was the saddest thing I'd ever seen. So I have used Sharpie, a black Sharpie on decks with no problem, but for the most part, I use all Tombos. And it's, oh no, something happened. I have lost chat. Okay, there we go. Tombow. That's how you spell that, John. They are, yeah, just Tombow. You can get them. I get them at Michael's. I don't know what you have a craft store wise. I can get them open stock at Michael's, Amazon. You can get packs of them or individuals. But most Tombows, you are able to purchase them separately outside of packs. I use a lot of black Sharpie. I'm just always try to be careful and mindful of what it is. I've not had any problem with Sharpies on most of the mass market decks. I would not use them on something like when you get into different card stocks, like more of an indie deck or something like Baba Studios, where it's expensive. It's different kind of core, different kind of lamination. I would look to see if somebody else has used it first before I would do it. But I've not had any issue with Tombos, and I don't have any issue with them bleeding off. So, okay. So, thank you, Heather. Heather put a link up for the microglaze. So this would be like, again, you may not have any issue. So I would, if you're trying a new kind of marker, get a cheap deck of cards, cover them in the thing, let them dry for an hour or whatever, then just play with them, shuffle them, do some readings with them, and see if you're having it transfer and come off on your hand. When I'm edging the deck, my fingers will get quite messy, but that never happens for me with Tombos after initially putting it on and letting it dry. I get no transfer on my hands, and I have no issue. I have decks that I've shuffled the heck out of. And the nice thing is that if, especially with like black or something, if over time that gets worn down, it's really, you pop another coat on and you just give it a new life. So, always try things because everybody's hand chemicals and I don't know are different. But apparently, Heather says there's this microglaze so that let's say you are sweatier hands or you have problems with it transferring. It sounds like you can put that on it and kind of seal it in. So I've never had to do that, but it's a nice alternative. And nice thing about this deck is when you get a deck that's really shiny like this, the benefit of this is that if you do get some on, you can easily just wipe it right off. So just keep a paper towel by you. So if you sometimes I'll I'll just make it happen. But sometimes you're just kind of going along and you like slide, and this doesn't show too much but see how it's beating up because it's got that really shiny edge. So that's one of the nice things about a deck that is shiny. In terms of edging a deck, they're like the easiest ones to fix any kind of errors that you might have, for sure. If you're edging a mass market deck, always use the extra. Yes, if there are extras, always use those first. You've got all the sides to try different colors, and I've definitely done that. I don't know. I almost feel like mass market decks are moving away from extra decks. Now, Low Scarabeo does them all the time. There's like art card decks and stuff. This is a rock pool. This did not have an extra card in it. So I don't know that we always get them. It is nice when we do get them, though. A lot of indie decks will have like an art card or some extra cards so that if you do want to do an indie deck, definitely, because you don't know the card stock. So definitely check that, use those extra cards or Google like somebody else having edged it. But a deck like this, I know I've edged a bunch of decks like this in Tombos. I don't even think twice about it. There's no mass market paper that I wouldn't edge with a Tombow. That's my personal experience. Does the pen come off the edge as easy? No, because the edge is raw paper, and so that is absorbing the color. And so I couldn't wipe this off and have white paper again. Now you can sand it off, but that's way too much work. So, and that's going to change your card size. But no, it's not going to come off of the raw paper edge. It's just going to come off the laminate really easy. Here now we've got a little bit more of a stack. I really like that with this deck. Yes, definitely alcohol inks, as Heather said. I know I got some of the Crayola Pipsqueaks. I feel like you have to do more coats of the Crayola Pipsqueaks than you do of the Tombow. Most of the time with Tombow, I can just do one coat. Sometimes if I want a darker color, I'll do it twice, but usually I can just do one coat. Or I kind of played around with the Pipsqueaks and I felt like you had to do multiple coats to get it to really pop the color. But I haven't used them as much as Heather, so don't take my experience on that. Where did I learn that? This color? This is one I've used a ton. I edge most of my decks, not all, but most of my decks. And so I've just found this to be a great matte antiqued gold that I just like. I get a lot of earthy tone decks. And so this is just a color that I can always have in my arsenal. I have multiple. I just buy like 3 of them at a time because I'll use them up. So it's just kind of trial and error. I have tons of Tombows because I use them for other things. I use them for geomancy readings. I use them for planners and things like that. So I use Tombows a lot. So yeah, I'm sorry. I don't know how this turned into let's edge my whole deck, but here you can just see. Sometimes you have to look back and see where you might have missed a little spot. No biggie. So here you can see this is that deck. It's beautifully aged on the back. It's beautifully aged here. So when you have just pure white, to me that doesn't look finished. Whereas when you have this gorgeous edging, it just feels like it's a finished complete deck. I love it. Okay. Sorry. I didn't mean this. Well, I mean, I'm not sorry. We can talk about edging. I love edging. Oh, where did you learn to color edge cards? You know, I don't know. It got to be something that people, I'm sure I saw somebody on YouTube years ago. I can't tell you who I first saw edge a deck. I'm not sure. When I first started trimming decks, I think that first time I edged a deck is a deck that I had trimmed. I want to say it might have been my Llewellyn Tarot. I can't remember my Druid Craft. It might have been my Druid Craft, which is one of my first walkthroughs I think I ever did on here. Not it wasn't the first, but I think it was one of the first. It might have been the first. Anyways, I'm sure I saw somebody do it on YouTube and have been doing it ever since. If you follow Boho Tarot on YouTube, she does a lot more in-depth into trimming and different ways to trim and modify decks. She's the one that pops up in my head. I'm sure there's other people, but she definitely pops into my head when I think about edging and trimming for sure. Okay, I'm going to go. I did not mean a 36 card Oracle deck to be this long, but I have enjoyed looking through this deck. I am really pleased with this. I'll be interested to see if anybody else picks it up, what they think about it. But I'm really looking forward to using this deck. I feel like this is going to be a good all-rounder and a great one to pull when there's work to be done. So I'm excited to see a deck like this. It's not new. It came out in 2020, but I'm excited to see a deck like this that kind of dives into those deeper things. So thank you all for hanging out with me, and I hope that you have an absolutely wonderful weekend. And I will see some of you on Sunday for Plan With Me Madness, and some of you in other places, but have a wonderful weekend.